And we are live. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Dubb Podcast Connection Loop. Today, we are going to be talking with Jake on the importance of creating content, creating relationships, and driving revenue for your business. So, Jake, if you could start with a short bio, and let's get into the topic.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'm looking forward to it. I love this topic. I think it's the future of where we're headed in B2B in particular. So I'm Jake Dunlap. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I run a sales consulting and strategy company called Scaled. We are a leading global sales consultancy for really companies that are trying to modernize components of their sales org and not do the same things that we did 20, 30 years ago. So we work with a mix of growth stage technology companies to Fortune 100 and 500 companies that are trying to bring in new practices around how to engage your buyer, how to create really kind of a more customer-centric selling process, and really just trying to think about new ways of doing things. So we have people in 3 or 4 different continents now. So we're doing a lot of really good work around this topic in particular, which is in 2021 and beyond, how do you engage, and what does that look like versus what it looked like even in 2015.
Very cool. And I really appreciate that you walk the walk. I mean, when it comes to content, you're active on social, you got the podcast going. What are some of the things that you're doing that we should know about?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the podcast just launched almost 2 months ago. You can go to jakedunlap.com. It should be pretty straightforward. And the podcast is really about telling stories, which is, and unlike your normal podcast, which is about where people are today, I'm really focused on getting into weird stuff about people's childhood. And it's just wild to see these celebrities and really famous CEOs. And it's their drive happened because of some weird thing that happened to them when they were 10 years old. Right? Someone told them no, or they got an F in a class, or their parents, didn't believe in them, and then, or something. And then all of a sudden they carry it with them. So we're really telling stories of some really, remarkable people. So go check out the podcast, and then obviously LinkedIn. And for me, I'll tell you what happened for me was in 2018. I was doing the same thing that a lot of people do when it comes to producing content, which is AKA resharing content. And, feeling like me as a CEO, I would be like an egomaniac if for some reason I didn't kind of only put out content about my company. And it was 2018 where I really kind of flipped the switch and started to realize that people want to hear from people, and started to kind of post consistently on LinkedIn. And it's really just continued to, call it, I guess, snowball over time. And, we're continuing to invest more and more in other resources in YouTube, and other places as well too. We just really have found that the more, you don't have to be everywhere. So that's the lesson for everyone here. Find a channel. LinkedIn is our little home base, because we're a B2B sales consulting firm, right? And then you start to kind of test out. But we're doing millions of dollars now of inbound organic business from content. That our number one driver of leads is Jake's LinkedIn. People literally come and they select in the drop down, even when they come to the website, Jake's LinkedIn. And so for all the people out there that are wondering, or nervous about it, if you're doing it not to be a jerk, and you're doing it to drive for your business and because you care about the people you want to interact with, then producing content to me is a part of my job as a CEO.
Oh, Ruben, I think there you go.
All right, you're back.
Yeah.
For a second, it was just the Jake Dunlap show. I was pumped.
All right, cool.
I was like, all right, I guess it's just me. Let's roll.
Yeah. If the audio.
I think he's cut out, right?
Yeah.
All right. Ruben, we lost you. Audio and audio's gone. Yeah, audio's gone. All right. No, I mean, this is super interesting.
So,
okay.
So
Ruben, you back?
Let's see if he's back. Let's see if he's back real quick.
Jumping around.
Yeah. All right. So it sounds like my audio is tanking right now.
Yeah.
Some Wi-Fi issues in the neighborhood.
It's all good, dude.
There's this interesting topic. Yeah. Well, that's why we got editing, right?
Right.
For those of you live,
What
Dang,
what I was
never
going to say
seen that
though was
before.
that, you mentioned something that's kind of interesting, which is like ego, and a lot of people suffer from this problem when they're putting their content out there in too many ways. They start to feel like, hey, is this all about me? Am I putting the wrong message out there? Do I look like I'm egocentric? How do you kind of overcome that issue both from an internal perspective, but also from a perception perspective?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we can cuss or not. Did we lose everybody again?
No, we're here. We're here.
No, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It just kind of kicked back.
He'll solo in on you when you're talking. So
Okay,
yeah.
I'm good. Hey, I'm good with that too. No,
Yeah.
what I was saying is like you have to not give a shit. And for me, what I realized, like, do I really care what these other people think? No. Why do you care what the person in the cube next to you who's like, oh, look at Jake, oh, he's posting, or these other like thought leaders? And by the way, and I'll tell a story about when I got feedback about people did think this, because man, I was posting in 2018, right? Like this LinkedIn wasn't the place that it is now 3 years ago, right? And so when I started putting out content on a daily basis, but I knew that this was the right strategy. So I didn't need their validation. I didn't need them to tell me whatever it is. I knew that this was the right strategy. So for me, it was a little bit easier, I think, to just lean in on it. And then, after 6 months of doing it, when we started to get inbound leads from people saying, we closed a 6-figure deal with a woman who came inbound. The very first call is, I don't even know what you do, but I think we need your help. That was it. 6 months in. 6-figure plus deal like that, and that client has spent probably $300,000 with us now over 3 years, and
That's
so
awesome.
because I'm not doing it again, I'm not doing it for those other people, and so I remember it very specifically. I think it's March of 2020. No, March. It must have been March of 2019. This guy had me on his podcast. He's like, Jake, I got to be honest. When I first started seeing your content, I was like, wow, what is Jake doing? Like, what is how's he posting and why is he doing this? And he's like, but then I got it. And then like I kind of like started to see what you were doing and why you were doing it, and not that I really gave a shit if he saw it or not, but you just have to know what you're doing it for. I was doing it to help to grow my business and my company, and when you're running your own company, or you're trying to build your own reputation or brand. I always like the word reputation too versus brand, because I think it resonates with people more. Like you have a digital reputation whether you want one or not. I can just Google your name. And I wanted to take control of that. So, that was those are some of my early learnings.
I had a question about that.
There's
like when you said you believe, you knew it was the right path. What was that drove that thought? Like what was the, in guiding light or whatever you want to call it that made you like, you know what? I know this is the way. I'm not going to, for 6 months, I'm going to put my head down and do it.
It's straightforward, dude. It's Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
Like it was, I saw what he was doing on B2C. And I'm like, this is it. Like this, and he wasn't talking about LinkedIn. By the way, I'm not taking credit for why Gary V, but I met him in October of 18 and we talked about LinkedIn, and he was not talking about LinkedIn in October of 18. He's talking about it all the time now, and I'm not taking credit for it. But honestly, I got turned on to him. I remember listening to him back in like 2012 or something. I was like, man, forget this guy. But I started listening to him and I'm like, dude, he's right. I was just like, he's right. Like, to me, it was just like so painfully obvious that we are in a give culture now. Give, that whole mindset of jab, 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 right hook. And because all the content that in B2B that we would share is all right hook. Click this link, join this webinar, do this thing. And as soon as I started doing text-only posts with no call to action, whoop. And so, I mean, I saw that validation that this concept was right almost immediately. And so I think I was initially listening to him and then started doing some testing, and that validation was kind of like the thing. Oh, it's the same on B2B, even though I thought it was as it is on B2C.
So,
and I'll kind of piggyback.
Go ahead, Ruben.
I was just going to piggyback on that, and I was going to add this quote that is, the intention with which you start something quite often determines the outcome of that thing. So if you start something with the intention to stroke your own ego, to look like a celebrity, then people are going to see that, and that it's either going to be successful or it's not, because people are going to see right through it and it will not be authentic. So what I really appreciate about this model of just giving no call to action is that it's completely counter to what
so many of the marketing gurus teach us,
Whew.
which is always have a call to action, always be converting, always be selling, create the funnel, create the path, get the conversions, get the optimizations. When in fact, what you're presenting here is just providing value. And then if people are interested, then they come forward. So I think that there's a lot of authenticity to that, and there's a lot of scalability to that. And I think it sounds like you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, test. If you don't believe me, just test for yourself. Go ahead and put something that has a call to action out there. Do 3 of those, and then do something that's pure value with no ask. And my friends, you're going to see it. I mean, when we take over, because we have a LinkedIn strategy practice now that was kind of born out of this like modern outbound world. And when we see that, it's like literally you're talking 10x engagement on day one. Because that's what people want. Why you don't go to social media to click links and go read blog posts somewhere else? Come on. You go to social media to go sound bite. Like that's why people are there. And so, when you had asked me that question about it was kind of like how I knew that was the right path. It was like all these things triangulating. It's like, well, why do you go to social? Then looking at, oh man, text only works. Okay, this guy's wildly successful doing this on B2C at some next level. So it was all those things I think is kind of I can attribute to why I got active.
Okay, so I got one other one too about the text only. That's a lower barrier to entry, right? Like it doesn't take as much time to get the text only. So you have that benefit of it, and then so the scalability of it, you can come up with text only every day and then post it when you need to. But that's strange, the algorithm. And so LinkedIn, I've seen this too. We've worked with a few LinkedIn people that had some really great following, and that's what they did also. They often just post little text-based things, thoughts, questions below or whatever, things like that. And the engagement on it is, like you said, 10, 20, 100 times higher than some of the stuff that's all built out. So
that's right, man. And the key is to not do it. It's interesting. So this is from that conversation, because then what we noticed is video sucks from like a views and same with images. But I'll tell you, and this is, again, and this is actually something that Gary had said, is he said, don't pander to the algorithm. He's like, never pander to the algorithm. And sure enough, man, the videos, I probably put out 2 or 3 videos a week, probably something like that. Everyone says, nobody comes up and says, oh, Jake, I love your text only posts. Nobody. Everyone, and obviously Dubb and what y'all are up to, right? Like the things that the reason I do the videos isn't for I don't do any of it for the likes and the whatever. I do it, those come, but people remember the videos. People remember that. They're like, oh, Jake, yeah, I've seen your videos.
Exactly.
And, even though I do videos at, probably a 15% of the time versus, other stuff.
Yep. Makes sense. And so it definitely needs to be a balance. It sounds like too, a balance of the content you're creating so that you're not, because if you even here, we're experts in video, we do video all the time, but to produce like a highly produced something every day, it's a big workload, right? It's because you need to strategize it, you need to shoot it, you need to edit it, things like that. So there sounds like a blend, and it sounds like actually some of the platforms maybe even perform better. So Ruben, we got to take note of this. We'll do some testing of our own. Very good.
Well, what's interesting is, Jake, I love how you presented this idea of not really doing what they tell us to do. LinkedIn is telling us to do video a lot. I mean, that's the vibe that I get. They're constantly doing announcements for stories and for video posts and different ways that you can put videos on there. But at the end of the day, the videos are the ones that don't always get the views and the engagement. So there's this like contradiction. That contradiction does not exist on Instagram. It obviously doesn't exist on YouTube or TikTok. So what's the problem? What's going on? Someone explain this to me, because I'm kind of blown away here. Why do text-only posts oftentimes get more engagement than videos on LinkedIn specifically?
Well, because it's a couple of things. It's how LinkedIn, I think a lot of it is how LinkedIn counts views and likes is basically, from what we can tell, is that, when something kind of comes into LinkedIn, just like when it goes on, because keep in mind, when something goes through the TikTok or the Instagram algorithm, it has to be an image. Now, granted, it could be a screenshot of an image, right? Like, or of a text, right? Like a Twitter, and, we do some of that too, or I do some of that. But imagine what happens in LinkedIn is that it all goes through the same chute. And the text only posts, that might start to get a little more traction early or something like that. Or one, the other thing that LinkedIn does, they made an update to their algorithm it's about 1.5 years ago now, called dwell time, which Instagram uses it and TikTok uses it too, which is how long do you dwell within it. So if you write a post that's this long, that's text only, that's going to take up a scroll, right? Whereas LinkedIn, to get a video view, I think it's like 3 to 6 seconds. I can't remember exactly what it is. So it's like LinkedIn's algorithm, I just think, is not sophisticated, nor are they over-indexing. What's over the number one piece of content everyone should be doing on LinkedIn right now is polls. Dude, polls, if I wanted to get, I could easily get 1 million views in a couple of weeks if I did like 2 to 3 polls a day. LinkedIn, because what LinkedIn did, they made a massive change to the algorithm where they started counting votes the same way they counted likes and comments. And so the algorithm thinks that it's a bunch of likes, the votes. So if you do some kitschy polls that get, 1,000, that's the same as, because it's so hard to get 1,000 likes on a post, right? But getting 1,000 votes is actually a lot easier. I'm like, do you like puppies or dog? No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. But like, so polls right now is really where it's at. If you're like after more whatever, and this is just from testing, test. But I think it's just, and then I would say this is the other thing to think about with LinkedIn. It's a very interesting platform. It has 2 masters. It has you as a consumer as a social media, and it has recruiters and HR people. And who do you think pays more bills? HR, recruiters, or LinkedIn social media people? And so imagine you've got a platform that needs to be built for both. So I think LinkedIn struggles with this idea of going all in as a social platform because they've got a recruitment business that may or may not index. So those are just some of the observations we've had from, doing this thousands of times.
Yeah, there is one simple truth, I think, which is staying ahead of the curve with the features that the social networks are putting out there. When Instagram put out carousels and people started doing carousels, the engagement was through the roof. Why? Because Instagram as a company, they need to gauge how carousels are doing. So what do? They 10x the visibility of carousels. The same thing is happening on LinkedIn with polls, and people are benefiting from it like crazy. The problem is people don't know what to do polls on. So a lot of the ones now, they're just starting to be kind of random. I feel like the ones that I connect to are the ones where we're gonna do this poll, and then based on the data, we're gonna do something else. We're gonna provide additional
That's
value.
what we do.
It's not just we're just stealing your data and then you'll never hear from us again. How can we make polls a jab, 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 cross? What's the play there?
Well, think about the cool part with polls that a lot of people don't know. When you vote, whoever did the poll gets all of your LinkedIn data. So I know who you were, I know your job title. So if you want to do cool stuff with polls, what I would be doing more of, and so we've got a guy we're working with, he's doing some analysis, and I think we're going to have some like really cool data sets to launch from this, is I would just break down the analysis. So like, let's say you do a poll on, what trend in sales are you most excited about? This, and this. And you get, 50, 100 votes or whatever. And then you can go and say like, managers said this and directors said this, or managers said this, but frontline people, wow, they said it this way other thing. So I think it's how can you share insights, because it's really all about insights. And I also see a lot of people right now that are just doing polls every day, et cetera, that nobody's going to remember. And this goes back to my point about video, that no one remembers the guy who did the one poll about blah, right? Like it's just not that memorable pieces of content. It's great for views. So I just think it's like, if you're going to do polls for views and likes, which is why I think a lot of people do it, because they figured this out too, just take something and do something with the data that comes from it. Or look, if you like to do it just for your own fun, like I'm cool with that too. If you're like, hey, I just want to see what people react. But I think the people that actually use the data are going to be the people that win. I think the people that know how to harness the data from the polls, it's like, you're going to go out and pay Gartner or Forrester how much to get a survey from VPs of sales? Like, why are you paying Gartner for that? Why are you paying for it? Like, you could literally just go, this is 2021. They're pulling 400 VPs of sales. Like, you can go do that and not pay $30,000 yourself. So, that there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff I think you can do with polls right now.
Well, here's what kind of baffles me is that there isn't some aggregate platform, portal, location that shows all the polls, at least to my knowledge. I have not seen this, where I can actually see the polls that are taking place on LinkedIn right now. Right now, we can put a story, we can put an article on LinkedIn, and we can post it as a social post. And then we have a piece of content that exists within the LinkedIn ecosystem. Why isn't there a centralized place? And correct me if this does exist, because I haven't seen it, but why isn't there a centralized place for all the polls that are happening? Because I want that data. I don't want to go to Gartner. I want to see it right now in real time in 2021 August.
Who knows, man?
What's going on?
Maybe that's what's next up. I'll tell you the sillier thing is LinkedIn promotes using hashtag. We've done some analysis on this. There's absolutely no correlation between virality and using hashtags. Why? Like to me, the thing is more baffling. LinkedIn doesn't have a trending hashtag section. So therefore, why are you putting hashtags on all your posts? Do you think people go and search? When's the last time anybody watching this right now actually searched a hashtag on LinkedIn? Oh wait, probably never. Or maybe if you're in sales, you did it. And so to me, the hashtag thing is way more baffling. Like everyone puts hashtags at the end of your post. Why? Nobody's searching it. Nobody's searching, like, maybe if you're doing like hashtag hiring or something like that, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's some value there. But that's what I would think about is, again, with a lot of these, it's like, to me, hashtags is much more of a, I don't know, like a anomaly. I'm like, why don't you have a trending hashtags at this point? It really makes absolutely no sense.
Well, there's the follow hashtags, which I followed one or two in the last 5 years. I don't recall.
And then did you go back to it?
No.
Did you go back to it? Yeah.
Never. Never, ever, ever.
Exactly.
So, that's real. So, I mean, it sounds like what you're recommending that we do is to strip away, all the desperation, to strip away I need to go put a video on because that's what people tell me to do, to strip away the call to action, and just to get guttural, to just peel the onion back as far back as we can and just be like, here's my message. It's raw. I expect nothing in return. And to rinse and repeat, and we're going to get some of the engagement that you're getting. So this is good, simple feedback for me.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, look, again, but do the videos to create connection to your audience. And that's how you got to think about it. You're trying to create a connection with a group of people. And so if you just do the same thing over and over, by the way, it's fine. I know guys that's really all they do. They only do text only posts, and they've got really nice and big followings, etc. But I wonder, how, like, is there an affinity? Do you feel like you know the person? So I'm a big fan of like both, like do things that are not just for the algorithm or to get more, and then do because they're better to connect with people. You're creating a better connection with folks.
Amazing. Well, I could talk about this for days. Where can folks learn more about you, your podcast, your social channels?
Definitely.
Give us the bits.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure, like I said in the beginning, check out jakedunlap.com. We've had some cool people. We had Dan Harris, who's a Good Morning America anchor, wrote 10% Happier, CEO of ZoomInfo, Outreach. We just had Claude Silver, who's Gary Vaynerchuk's chief heart officer. So again, if you're looking for something that's like just a really interesting like dialogue, style, I think you'll enjoy it. And then LinkedIn. Come check me out at LinkedIn. I think that's always a good spot. Just / Jake Dunlap. I'm putting out content every day, as you can imagine. And happy to follow up, DM me. I try to get on top of my DMs as much as possible.
Very cool, Jake. Well, thank you so much for the time, and stick around afterwards for a little bit of post-production notes, and really appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I think I'm still live. So what's up, everybody? Stick around.